Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Village of Burr Ridge with the Mayor and Board of Trustees for Monday, May 23, 2022. Can I get a Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Trustee Paveza.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Mattal. Here. Trustee Smith is not here. Mayor Grasso.
Here. I need a motion from the trustees to allow Trustee Snyder to participate by phone. He did meet the requirements, told us he was out of town on business timely ahead of time. So I'd appreciate getting a motion from a board member.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate everything.
Thank you. That takes us to item 3, presentation and public hearings. We have none tonight, and that takes us to item 4, the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, discussed, opened for public comment, and voted upon during this meeting. 5 minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of May 9, 2022. B, receive and file Economic Development Committee of May 4, 2022. C, receive and file Plan Commission meeting of May 16, 2022. Ordinances. 6D, approval of an ordinance granting an amendment to Ordinance A 834-1021 to expand the subject use and a special use for a restaurant over 4,000 square feet with the sale of alcoholic beverages, Z04-2022, 308 to 312 Burr Ridge Parkway, Rovito. E, approval of an ordinance granting a variation from section 4.1 or 4.I.1 of the zoning ordinance to permit a detached garage in a side buildable area, VO2 2022, 8311 Fars Cove, Panico. That takes us to 7, resolutions. A, excuse me, adoption of a resolution accepting certain subdivision improvements and establishing a deadline for completion of other improvements for the Lakeside Point Plan Unit Development, 11650 Bridewell Drive. 8, considerations. B, approval of award of the 2022 crack ceiling contract to SKC Construction of West Dundee through the MPI joint bid in the amount of $79,977. C, approval of purchase of vehicle modules from Federal Signal of University Park in the amount of $22,240. D, approval of a contract extension for managed GIS services with CloudPoint Geospatial of Roanoke in the annual amount of $25,800. E, approval of Mayor Grasso's nominations to appoint John McCracken and Annabelle McFarland to the Stormwater Management Committee for terms expiring February 1, 2025. F, approval to remand a petition for special uses, PUD amendment, and variations to the Plan Commission, Z10 2022 9115 Kingery Highway, Thorntons LLC. G, approval of vendor list dated May 23, 2022 for the fiscal year 2021-22 in the amount of $255,777.10 for all funds, plus $198,177.38 for the pay period ending April 30, 2022, for a grand total of $453,954.48, which includes no special expenditures. And H, approval of vendor list dated May 23, 2022 for the fiscal year 2022-2023 in the amount of $186,414.65 for all funds, plus $261,255.55 for the pay period ending May 14, 2022, for a grand total of $447,670.20, which includes no special expenditures. Can I get a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? Items 5A, B, and C, 6, D, and E, 7A, 8, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Veza?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. Okay, that takes us to 6, ordinances A. Consideration of an ordinance amending section 8A11 of the zoning ordinance regarding hours of operation for restaurants with liquor licenses in the business districts, Z09-2022. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to talk about 6A and B just for ease.
Okay, let me read B then also. Can I I'll also read B and then we'll take them separately. B reads, consideration of an ordinance amending section 25.09, classes of licenses, number of licenses, hours of chapter 25 entitled Liquor Control of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code. Go ahead, Evan.
Thank you, Mayor. Please forgive the very technical definitions there, but in essence, these two ordinances are intending to create a unified closing time for restaurants with liquor licenses in the business districts in the village of Burr Ridge, as has been discussed and directed by the board for some time now. The reason for the liquor license addendum here is simply because they are having a 2 a.m. call out as well. That was existing in the zoning ordinance as well. So as of this approval, if it is approved, we will have restaurants who may close on midnight or 1 a.m. depending on the day. More information is available there in the summary. Further clarification here, there are no exceptions in these ordinances to the rules. There was a brief mention of possibly grandfathering other restaurants users in. That will not occur under these ordinances. We will have all of the restaurants closing at one time, midnight or 1 a.m. depending on the day. There are no 2 a.m. licenses available at this time if these are approved. In final, these ordinances are aligning outdoor dining hours with indoor dining hours only for the time being. Again, the board has directed the Planning Commission and staff to take up the outdoor dining issue on a separate matter. So these align only for the time being. We do anticipate that there would be changes forthcoming for outdoor dining in the future, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear that these are only aligned for now. So again, I would anticipate in the next month or so, we'll come back with an alternative plan for outdoor dining. But again, these 6A and B do the same thing. They make sure that permitted uses, restaurants with liquor licenses in the business districts may close at midnight or 1 a.m. without exception. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, we should take them separately, okay? So can I get a motion to approve an ordinance amending section 8A11 of the zoning ordinance requiring hours of operation for restaurants with liquor licenses in the business districts, Z09-2022?
Mayor, before we do that, can I ask one specific question to Evan, please?
Yeah, let's get the motion in a second, then it'll be on the table, okay?
Okay.
So can I have a motion?
So moved.
So Al moved.
Second.
Tony second. Okay, we have a movement and a second. Go ahead, Joe.
Evan, does this affect Johnny Cabs, Connie Wine Merchant, and/or Capri if they have a 2 o'clock license?
So Capri never had a 2 o'clock license. They have by law, by granting of a special use, given a 1 a.m. license. So they never had a grandfathering in the first place. I think there was a misunderstanding about what their license may have held. Secondly, related to Johnny Cabs and County Wine Merchant, both were specifically granted whatever the zoning ordinance allowed them to stay open to. There was no specificity included in their special uses such that exists in Capri's special use. So by virtue of the zoning ordinance being amended henceforth, their closing times will then move to whatever is permitted by the zoning ordinance, which is now midnight and 1 a.m.
So my question is then, Johnny Cab's under the understanding that they have it closing at 2 o'clock. Am I correct at this moment?
They are able to operate, or would have been able to operate had they opened prior to tonight to 2 a.m. because they specifically were allowed to be open till 2 a.m. because that is what the zoning ordinance allowed for all restaurant users in the village. If this is approved, then they would be moving back to midnight or 1 a.m. depending on the day, because no specific time was granted as part of their special uses.
Okay, thank you very much for the information.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Guy?
Passage of these ordinances prohibit any restaurant with a liquor license from petitioning the board for a 2 a.m. closure?
I believe that we do not allow for that at this point with this language. You cannot, it would be called a prohibited use because it is not specifically listed as a special use option.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Tony?
And again, we are moving hours, weekend hours from 2 a.m. up to 1 a.m. And everyone with their liquor license selling alcoholic beverage will be either midnight or 1 a.m. depending on the day.
Correct.
Everyone, there's no grandfathering.
No exceptions.
Oh,
Or
restaurants.
grandfathering.
I'm sorry?
Restaurants.
Restaurants, yes.
Thank you.
They're allowed to stay open at night, right?
Yep.
Yes?
The
So my
mayor-
question, sorry.
Hold on, Joe, let's get Anita and then I'll come back
Thank
to you.
you, thank you.
So you said that they will vote separately on the outdoor dining piece, but if we approve this, then can the board or the planning commission go back and change that? Or will that get grandfathered into this? Like
You mean-
outdoor
You
dining,
mean the outdoor dining?
hours?
No, the outdoor dining is going to be a separate procedure. It'll be a text amendment unlike any other text amendment that you've experienced as a trustee at this point. It's a standard procedure. You're not grandfathering anybody in with this vote tonight.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
But the intent would be to have standard hours again for everybody that wants outdoor. So what I'm hoping that we get done tonight is clarity that all restaurants with night liquor license ability have the same
Right.
rules. Nobody has different rules. That's the intent of this exercise, okay? All right. Al, do you have a question?
No, I agree, yes.
Okay, and then Joe, thank you. Joe, you had another question?
Yes, I do. I'm 100% supportive of the dining situation, but since as Evan stated, that we've had the situation with County Wine, even though he's never used it, Johnny Cab with no special use, I think we should reach out to them. So my vote would be yes for everything, but as long as we notify them and make sure they're okay with it, because I think it's personally unfair if they're assuming they have X, even though if the wine shop was ever open till 12:30, it would be a miracle. But I think it's fair enough for those individuals who either paid or thought or assumed. I want to make sure they're very clarified, very on target for this situation. So dining's fine. I have no problem with the 1 o'clock and everyone else, as long as Evan reaches out to the two individuals, explains to them, and/or if we have to make an exception, we make an exception. And I hate to do that word because I don't like that. But it's not fair for someone to understand one thing and we change it after the fact.
So to answer your question and make it clear also to the public, several weeks ago, and when we were moving towards this, and we probably would have moved towards it faster had we not learned of all the different variations and special uses, and the fact that we had PUDs that weren't covered by the ordinance, and so we had all of these other things we needed to clarify several weeks ago in anticipation of exactly what you're bringing up, Joe. I spoke to the lead person at Johnny Cabs several weeks ago and informed him that the board was going to very likely move in this direction, in my opinion, so that we had uniformity with all the evening restaurant liquor license hours, and he had no problem at all with it. He doesn't, he, like so many others, doesn't want to be open after 1 a.m. So I did cover that hurdle in anticipation of that several weeks ago.
Thank you
Mayor,
very
if I
much,
may
Mr. Mayor.
speak to that. The last meeting, when we were discussing this issue and the thought that there may need to be some exceptions, I had not yet seen the exact language that was in the special uses granted to Johnny Cabs and to County Wine Merchant. When I subsequently saw those, rather than being granted specifically a 2 a.m. license, their special uses were conditioned on having the hours of operation specified in the zoning ordinance, the section that you are amending tonight. And that language did not say as existing on a specific date. So they were subject to being changed as that section was changed. And then, as was commented earlier, Cree did not have a 2 a.m. license, they had 1 a.m. So hopefully all of that is cleared up. There's no outliers that we had to be concerned about. I will say, if you delve into outdoor dining, those institutions have hours that are the same as what you're passing tonight based on their special uses that were granted to them. So that situation will continue the way their licenses read and their special uses read right now. But when the Plan Commission takes that up, you may run into the situation that we anticipated for Johnny Cabs having a 2 a.m. license, for example, if you go to change those to earlier hours. So we're not at that stage yet. So that was what I wanted to clarify, was that Johnny Cabs and County Wine Merchant did not have specified 2 a.m. closing times.
Okay. All right. Any further questions from anybody on the board? Any public comment on this item 8A? Yes, ma'am. Please come up and identify yourself.
Okay, Joanne Palmisano, 15 West, 230 79th Street. And I attended the meeting with the Plan Commission last Monday. I have to say, the initial plan was disturbing, that there would be a cluster housing development, and
Oh, wait a
they
minute,
felt-
ma'am, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, although I did, I apologize.
Okay,
But I don't think we're on the same page. This is the liquor license issue.
I thought you said 8A.
I'm sorry, 6A.
Oh, I did say, I'm
Okay,
sorry, so it's
then
my
I'll
error.
come back again.
And I owe you,
I won't
I owe
leave.
you an apology. I'm
No
sorry.
problem.
Okay, sorry. Better get some glasses. 6A, I'm sorry, is there any public comment on item 6A regarding the liquor licenses in the business district, closing at midnight and 1 a.m.? Okay, so we've had comment from the board. We have no public comment on item 6A from the public. Unless there's any further comment, roll call, please.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes, with the caveat, as long as Mike's put the thing in, making sure it was privy only to, we had prior. So if this is the way it is, I'm gonna go along with it. Other than that, I really believe that anyone who had a 2 o'clock license should be able to keep it. Thank you.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. Okay, that then, we did read this, but I'll read it again so that we're going to consider it again. Now, remember, A had to do with the business districts licenses. And so B is consideration of an ordinance amending section 2509, classes of licenses, number of licenses, hours of chapter 25 entitled Liquor Control of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code. Evan, we've already explained this one too.
Yes, this is just the opposite side. The liquor license simply allows everyone who we just amended their lower hours two on the zoning side to match on the liquor side. So there's no clarification there.
Could you speak up, please?
Sorry. It's the same hours for the liquor licenses for these same users that we just amended, but for the liquor code. So the same midnight to 1 a.m. hours.
So one had to do with operations, the other had to do with the liquor license?
Correct.
Okay. So they're mirror images of each other, but we're making sure that we've got it clear that it's both hours of operation and the liquor licenses are also tied to those hours, okay?
Correct.
All right, any questions from the board? As to item 6B, oh, sorry. yes.
Sorry, last question.
Sure.
We have, I believe, one liquor license for packaged goods in the village at, on Route 83. What time is their liquor license cut off at? Does anyone recall?
Are we talking about a gas station?
Yes.
I don't know, off the top of your head. They're open 24 hours a day.
Understand that.
So I just don't know where the
We
liquor
limit,
license.
just as a sidebar.
This amendment does not impact that.
Of course,
It's only,
I understand
we
that.
only amended the license classifications for restaurants.
I understand that. I was just thinking outside the box. What about this other business that it's open 24 hours a day? And are they selling liquor 24 hours a day? I don't recall. Maybe someone could let me know.
It's probably an A or B class license. That's certain sitting here, I could try to access
Okay, if
it.
you could follow up on that, please.
We will, yes.
Thank you.
I think.
Deputy Chief, do you know the answer?
has some response.
They stopped selling, they don't sell 24 hours.
Thank you.
Do you happen to know when they stopped? Midnight. Thank you, but let's check it out to make sure.
May come into play when Thornton's comes before
Right.
us and they want 24-hour operation and they're gonna be selling beer and wine.
And I think it should just stay consistent. I'd like to see consistent, same rules for whatever entity it is, gas stations, restaurants.
In other words, the same playing field for everybody.
Absolutely.
I don't believe there's any license classification that allows 24-hour operation in your
I don't think
code. So that would require an amendment to
course.
this same section, so.
Okay, any other questions on item 6B? Yes, Anita?
I just want to kind of go a little deeper into the liquor license. So that means alcohol can be served till 1 a.m. or?
No, there's a 1 hour time period where they cannot serve up to the end of closing. So if it's at midnight, you have to keep the kitchen open until 1 hour prior.
Okay.
And you cannot serve after your 1 hour window up to it. You can't serve all the way up till you close,
Okay, so if you're closing at 12, you can serve till 11.
or
Right.
1 at midnight,
Yeah,
yes.
so
Correct.
the commonly used phrase of last call
Okay,
would have to be an hour before,
understood. Okay, that's just what I wanted to clarify.
right?
Good question.
Good question, though. Very good. Anybody else at the board level for 6B? Any public comment on 6B? Okay, roll call, please.
Do we use the same motions from 6A?
Oh,
We need new motion.
oh, you're right. Sorry, thank you for correcting me. Can I get a motion to approve an ordinance amending section 2509, classes of licenses, number of licenses, hours of chapter 25 entitled Liquor Control of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code? So moved.
Second.
Any more comment at the board level? Any public comment on 6B? Roll call, please.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. 6C, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 1 entitled General Provisions of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code with regard to debts owed to the village. Owen? Evan?
Owen here.
Sorry, Evan.
You're fine. So over the past 2 years, the village has developed its administrative adjudication program. It's actually going very effectively. We're growing the number of cases that are on every agenda. And overall, we're getting more into the swing of really a modern code program. As such, as fines are levied, we can levy fines up to $750 per day per violation. In some cases, fines can rack up fairly quickly and fairly extensively. At this point, there is no besides collections, there's really no way for us to compel those property owners to pay the village without getting other services from the village, such as building permits, building licenses, or business licenses, or other liquor licenses or the like. This would create such a mechanism. So if someone owed $1,000 to the village and they wanted a business license, they'd be required to pay us in full, not just down to $100, in full before they can obtain a business license or be considered for a business license and the like. Same thing for building permits. So I'm going to go along with what you approved last time at your board meeting here, where you enrolled the village in the local debt recovery program from the comptroller's office. This is another tool for staff to be able to assess the fines as well as get the fines back from violators or other people who owe the village money, or they obtain other necessary services like that. To be clear, this does not affect things like 911. We're not going to turn your water off for things like that. We're going to make sure that we always provide the necessary stuff, but if you come in on more of an elective thing, we want to make sure there's an opportunity for us to collect on said debts before you move forward with any of your other licensing needs. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 1 entitled General Provisions of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code with regard to debts owed to the village?
So move.
Second.
Joe's second, Anita first. Any comment at the board level? Any questions? Any public comment on item 6C? Roll call, please.
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. That takes us to 8A. We're there. 8A, consideration of a plan commission recommendation to approve a major change and amendment to the cottages at Drew PUD ordinance number A 834-16-18, Z 715-2022-7950 Drew Avenue, Perino, Jarper Properties LLC. Evan?
I'm going to ask Director Farrell to make this presentation.
Janine?
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mary. Good evening, everyone. In 2018, the petitioner, Anthony Perino of Jarper Properties, was approved for a PUD, or a planned unit development, for the Cottages of Drew subdivision, which is an 8-lot subdivision. One of the conditions of approval was that the petitioner would return for final approval of final engineering, landscaping, and also the building elevations that would require plan commission and also board approval. As those were being developed, the petitioner then decided to amend the request to include a 3-car garage option on 6 of the 8 homes. There was only a 2-car garage option in the original plans in 2018. With that increase in the garage size, the impervious surfaces, which means the hard surfaces like concrete or asphalts, increased from 11.5% in 2018 to 15.8% in 2022. The open space, or the green space, thereby decreased. It went from 88.5% in 2018 to 84.2% in 2022. So this was a 4.3% change overall from 2018 to 2022. The petitioner is requesting approval of this amendment for this reduction in the open space, and also approval of the final engineering and landscaping plans and the building elevations. At the public hearing on May 16th, there were 6 objectors who spoke, and they were primarily expressing concerns about the drainage and the impact that this development would have on the drainage in the area. The Plan Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval with 7 conditions. Since the meeting, the petitioner has provided some clarification about that open space decrease, and the number is 4.3% decrease, and they also provided clarification on the stormwater. The petitioner was originally required in 2018 to provide 20% more volume than that minimum requirement. The petitioner confirmed that they have engineered the plans to be at 30% more than the requirement, and with this increase in the impervious, they are now slightly under that 30% number. And we do have the petitioner present tonight, the team here, and I can take any questions, and they will be able to take any questions as well.
Okay, before we go any further, I can only read down to 2. Okay, I want to read the whole thing. It was just submitted today. Okay, so first of all, can I get a motion to approve a plan commission recommendation to approve a major change and amendment to the Cottages of Drew PUD ordinance number A 834-16-18 Z 2022, 7950 Drew Avenue, Perino, Jarper Properties LLC. We have no motion?
I'll make a motion to discuss it, so I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
For discussion purposes?
Sure. You can do what you want with it after that.
I'll second it, so we can talk about it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so let's start talking about it. What's the question? Anybody?
I'll have some questions. I'll start off if no one else
Okay.
would like to.
Go ahead, and then I'll.
Okay, so is the petitioner here tonight? A representative can come up here and answer my questions, please.
Good evening. My name is Nick Patera. I can introduce Tony Perino, yellow shirt. Bill Zaleski is our civil engineer.
Thank you. So what's driving the need for this third garage?
Market conditions have asked for a third-car garage for parking accommodations. It would be 6 of the 8 homes that would allow a 3-car garage. 2 would remain as 2-car garage, but if that answers your question.
So, market conditions. Recently completed Lakeside Point was 28 homes, 22 homes?
44.
I'm sorry?
44.
44. My subdivision's mixed up over the years. 44 homes, all of them were 2-car garages, recently completed. Savoy Club, 52 homes, 2-car garages, all of them. Garfield Ridge, nearby, 2-car garages. So I'm puzzled by the market need all of a sudden. Could we pull up the elevations, please? I have some questions on the elevations.
This might take me a minute. It's a large file.
Always pulling that up. What's the square footage of each garage that you're proposing?
They're roughly 10 by 22.
10 by 22, so 220 square feet of additional garage space.
Yes.
And will there be living space above that garage space?
No, there will not.
You're showing windows on the elevations for the third car.
I don't know that that's the case.
On all of them, you show windows, all the elevations. So I'm assuming that's living space, or can be converted to living space.
I would say that's the case. I haven't studied the floor plans for these.
Okay. So has that living space been accounted for in the floor area ratio?
That hasn't been a question that we've been asked before.
I'm asking it now.
I don't have an answer for it.
Okay. To me, these look like garages with attached homes. I'm sorry to say that, but what is the pitch on this roof? Do you happen to know that?
Sorry, I haven't got an answer for that.
Okay, I'm going to guess 12. Does that seem reasonable?
The front end up gable does look that way. I don't know that we
Okay,
have side
it's-
elevations. Plan Commission looked at these and found these to be something that was appealing to them, but I'm sorry, that's not your question.
That's fine. I'm not discounting the Plan Commission's efforts at all, not one bit. So it looks like a lot of bulk to me when I see a pitch roof like this, 3-car garage. I mean, the elevation on the front, the garage doors are wider than the rest of the house. It's a garage with attached house. It bothers me. So what is the, if I could ask the question, what is the green space not underwater?
I wish I could answer more of your questions. We have overall green space, but I don't have the division between, I understand your question, I don't have the answer to that. I'm hoping that this doesn't.
This is this is a challenging site, and I understood that. And I understood that from day one when this came before the Plan Commission.
The only thing I can offer is that of the stormwater retention area, that has remained intact from the 2018 plan to this current plan.
So the stormwater detention area has not changed. However, we're increasing the impervious surfaces by 6 times 220 square feet, 1,400 square feet.
We're going to get into a mathematics game here.
No, it's not a game.
I'm
I
not,
don't play games.
I'm not refuting your question.
But as a former plan commissioner, these are the kind of questions I've been
Sure,
taught
please,
to ask.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, but you're still saying you're maintaining the 30%, 20% bonus stormwater retention that you promised?
The baseline stormwater retention by village code was required to be increased 20%.
Right.
But as a further consideration, we added another 10% to that, so it's up to 30%.
Okay.
Plan Commission did ask, if you don't, let me indulge you for a minute, but Plan Commission did ask that we at least maintain above 25%.
Okay, and you're above that 25%.
Right. One other question, or that came up in Plan Commission, if you will allow, is they had said, what if the market doesn't require 3-car garages on 6 homes? And they were comfortable with saying we could still have 2-car garages up to no more than 6, but a total of 8 homes would remain.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's all the questions I have for now.
Okay, next.
So this is a challenging site, as Trustee Franzese had pointed out. And as frequent traveler of 79th Street, especially during rainstorms, I know the water buildup in the area and especially to the neighbors there. And I know one of the requirements was to help fix that issue with wetlands and, removing some of that drainage onto Drew Avenue on that side. I mean, what has been done to help manage that?
2 things. In addition to maintaining what we've provided as impervious surface, rooftops, roadways, driveways, and that 20% plus another 10, we have compensatory storage. Can I say in a public forum that we're going to keep Drew from flooding? I can't say that. The watershed is enormous above Drew, but we will reduce the fluctuation that occurs by the result of this development.
Okay. And I understand that the Army Corps of Engineers had to be contacted in order to make that happen. I mean, has that...
I'm going to get to about the limit of my experience to answer that question. I can ask Bill, but I know that we have had to go through both DuPage County. All right, Bill? Here we go. See, just a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Bill Zaleski with Advantage Consulting Engineers. I'm a civil engineer. Nothing is being done with Drew and 79th Street regarding the flooding. We attempted to do that. It got shot down at DuPage County level because in order to do that, the entire site would have to become a wetland basin based on the mitigation. Therefore, the county successfully prevented us from doing what we had started out to do for the 79th and Drew flooding. We have contacted the Army Corps, the DuPage County. Everybody has signed off on it. Because we are disturbing some of the floodplain, and we're compensating that at the northwest corner of the property. So the floodplain that's being filled in is being compensated at 1.5 to 1 ratio at the northwest corner.
Okay. So it's being compensated? Can you say that again?
Floodplain compensatory storage at the northwest corner.
By how much?
1.5 to 1 ratio.
Okay. Those are questions for me.
Thank you. Al?
This property's, since it's first brought to our attention, it's going on 5 years now. And you finally, after changes, have come up with this subdivision, and you brought it to the Plan Commission. There are 7 items that the Plan Commission wanted to make sure that you handled before it gets approved. And my question to you, with all the problems that you've had, that the other trustees have talked about, are you confident that you can do this, or are you going to be in asking us for more changes?
Pardon me? We could go through them one by one, but the answer is shortly yes. We are confident. We're eager to get started with this development and provide some improvements to the area. But we're confident that we're not going to be coming back asking for one more after 5 years of letting this mature. We're anxious to get going with your support. And we're not coming back in, I think, is your primary question.
As you can see, the chances are very good. If there are going to be changes, they're not going to be approved.
We don't anticipate any further changes.
Okay.
Done?
Yes.
Anita? Joe, do you have any questions?
As a trustee, listened for the last couple of years on this situation, my vote is I appreciate the individual coming forward. It's been crickets for so long, my vote would be no.
Okay, so I have one question. It says here, the final plan shall substantially comply with the submitted site plans, that's 1, landscape plans, 2, and building elevations, 3. So what is substantial, are we gonna get into any dispute as to what substantially complying is?
So
Go
I think
ahead.
there's a couple of ways to answer this. So one of the things that came before you was something called a major change. A major change is a definite objective increase or decrease in some sort of service, conveyance, a complete shift in where site plan or building pads were on the plan, and that's what necessitated the trigger really is, as Director Farrell said, they had to come in for final plans anyway, but they also, what I would call meaningfully deviated from the original building plans, which was permitted, which all had 2-car garages. When you're adding 2-car garages, you add certain things that just are necessarily a 3rd car, extra driveway, extra roof lines, extra foundation, and so those change the calculations of the matter. That's a major change, so I don't want to load it back up just because this is a humongous file, but when they say substantially, they mean if the window moves a foot on the elevation, but nothing else does, that would substantially comply with what they're showing you here tonight. They're basically saying there's a very small amount of wiggle room that staff would be empowered to adjudge the PUD on, but the facts of the matter cannot change. They cannot add 4-car garages, they cannot wholesale move buildings from A to B, can't move the conditions of the pond, they can't change the conveyance of the water. But again, if they had to move a window slightly or just barely pitch the roof a little bit, which had no meaningful difference, in the hundreds of a percent, that's a substantial compliance at that point. There are some more technical definitions in the zoning ordinance which can adjudge that, but I'm trying to use practical examples related to this particular development to help make it more relevant. So if there were major changes, they would be probably something in the realm of engineering concerns, subtraction of homes, addition of homes, again, things that are, to my understanding, is not being in the plans. This is really the last and final from the petitioner. So if those did come up, you'd see it again, but I don't anticipate those being specifically readily necessary at this point, and I'm basing that opinion based upon the petitioner's testimony here tonight.
Okay, and so how, this has always been a challenging site, even during my first stint as mayor, it was always an area that was prone to flooding. Are we confident, we as the Village of Burr Ridge, Plan Commission, et cetera, that the flooding situation, the stormwater is being adequately taken care of?
So I want to answer this very specifically in context. This has been asked a number of times in the context in relation to this development. So the rules of the road are, as it is not their legal responsibility to fix all the flooding on Drury and 79th Street. When they say they're conveying 30% more of what they're trapping in a stormwater detention facility, 30% more of what they're required to do, it is based on the impervious surfaces that they are producing with their development. So if they had 4 homes, they would be providing less relative stormwater capacity. So whatever the calculation was, which Mr. Zielinski has calculated and has been confirmed by our engineer and the county, because the county ultimately is who we derive our engineering news from, they say that you need, for every foot of concrete, you need a foot of storage, as an example. If they're not creating as much, then they don't have to provide as much. But what they are providing in terms of impervious surface, they are providing X plus 30% in terms of capacity on the site, and that is in the form of comp storage, detention, in a number of areas. I think there's two, there's a main one on the east and a smaller one on the west, graded down. All the water grades down into these. You can see there's some gradients between all the homes, which will flow back into those. But I can say with 100% confidence that the impervious surfaces they have created on this plan have been taken care of with a relative corresponding amount of storage capacity. I do not want the board to have any misguidance of Drew being dry forever because they provided 30% more stormwater capacity. I was there at the original, I discussed this when this was in its nascent stages. I can attest to what they said. They made an attempt to clean out the outlot on the north side of the property, create a much larger basin, but they were rejected by powers even above the village. It was a good idea which didn't work out legally. But again, I want to be very clear that yes, they are providing, based upon these calculations, X plus 30% of what they are required to provide.
So the answer to my question is yes. And here's the distinction, if I understand you. They have met the requirements that DuPage County wants in terms of moving water from the impervious to more pervious areas of their site. However, Drew Avenue, south of 79th Street or south of 79th Street, may still flood from time to time, and it's not going to be the fault of this development. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Follow that?
Will it
We
make
all
it
know
worse?
that from time to time, you cannot even drive sometimes on Drew Avenue.
Right.
And I would like to add.
And so that may still happen, but what we're being told tonight from an engineering standpoint is that it will not be the fault of this development because this development is retaining all the water it is displacing on its own site. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So that answers my questions there. Is the representative, who's here from the Plan Commission? You are. Again.
Our representative was Commissioner Irwin, who was not present at the meeting, so I
Okay.
can speak for the commission.
Okay, good, because I kind of looked around, thought I didn't see anybody, but so, you know, we always have great respect for the Plan Commission, hardest working Plan Commission ever, and is very professional. So when I read things like the Plan Commission unanimously voted to recommend, I take that very seriously myself. So tell me, please, for the purposes of the board and the public, how did the Plan Commission respond to the questions that Trustee Francis asked about the second garage, which does look like it was literally added on and it would appear to me that the plans allow for living space there, which doesn't bother me that much because, I mean, foundation's the foundation, it's there. So I want to know how the Plan Commission dealt with that, and I do want to know how the Plan Commission dealt with the water, because the water's always been an issue over there.
Sure. So in terms of the building elevations, there were a couple commissioners that did express concern on the massiveness of the three-car garage in relation to the facade. So there was at least two that did mention that in their comments and expressed concerns about it. Ultimately, they did vote to approve those elevations, and it was basically due to the fact that the houses were not visible from Drew. So as you're driving along Drew with the landscaping and the way that the proposed road sort of curves around on the cul-de-sac, those homes would not be readily visible from Drew Avenue. So they felt comfortable approving them, even though they did express some concerns about that. In terms of the living space.
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. So the facade issue
Yes.
would be, in essence, internal to the people who wanted to live there and the people that bought the particular homes. But the plan commissioners were generally okay with the facade issue because it would not be viewable by the public at large in Berwick.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And in terms of the livable area above garages, I do not believe that was specifically mentioned, but we did talk about FAR and the requirements for FAR. So, you know, the homes would still be constrained to a certain livable area percentage.
So 5 years from now, someone buys the home, constructed in a way that they break in there, they would need a building permit to turn it into livable space. And it sounds like the building permit would be denied because it would exceed the FAR. Did I say that correctly?
Correct, it potentially would, yes. And the plans also stipulate a certain square footage for each home. I believe it's 22,000 square feet. I think it's 25. I don't have them in front of me, but the plans do specify certain
Okay.
square footages.
So here's what I'm going to recommend should this go forward, if it hasn't been in here, and I must admit I didn't read every, wasn't a large file. But what tends to happen, again, I'm sitting here and we're sitting here in part because we know what happens in the future sometimes. Someone then buys the house, the developer didn't tell me, and you know, they want to now make that living space, and now you're going to tell me I can't do it because of FAR, which a lot of residents don't understand FAR. You know, right away, you explain it to them, then they get it, but they don't know about it. So I would like to make it very clear that this is not intended to be livable space. It's not being sold as livable space or convertible or converted to livable space. And so that it's clear that buyers know that they can't convert those garages to livable space, and we don't have a future board years down, you know, being faced with, they told me I could do it, I would have never bought the house, blah, 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 blah. So I want that to be very clear should this pass.
That can be added as a condition.
Okay. Assuming the board approves that, okay?
Can I ask a clarifying question to make sure I'm clear on that?
Sure.
Kind of go a couple ways here. So they did not specifically talk about a set FAR, but did they talk about livable space? Because those are sometimes not the same thing, as you know. So FAR, you can have a livable space which is not included in the FAR. You can also have FAR which is included but not necessarily inhabitable or livable. So I guess I just want to clarify, when you say, you know, I think I'm just trying to take the staff perspective here of, when you say it's not livable, like, you can have livable space that doesn't count toward FAR. Like, you can have carpet with drywall, which is painted with lights, and it'd be like a
So here's what
bonus area.
here's what I'm going to recommend to the board.
Please.
That whatever it is, we have it clear. Just like we're doing tonight with the liquor laws, I want clarity and uniformity. Same thing here. If it's going to be livable space, then clear it up in the beginning that it can be or can't be, and this is for the following reasons. So that we don't have future buyers coming before the board or the plan commission saying they were promised one thing and they got another thing.
Okay.
That's all I want is clarity. This is a problem I could see that could happen in the future, and I just want everybody to understand what the rules are so that so buyers don't think they bought something and they thought they were getting one thing and they did not. Yes, Tony?
And to contribute to clarity, what are they approved for right now? You know, let's say this doesn't pass. What are they approved to do today?
So they are approved today to do the 2018 version of the site plan of the cottages of Drew, but that had the two-car option.
Okay.
And they still would have to come back with those building elevations for the two-car option.
Okay.
And the final engineering and final landscaping.
Okay, so this PUD is passed and
The PUD, yes, it's still passed, the 2018 version has been approved,
Okay.
but we would still have to have those final documents go before the.
Including these engineering numbers?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Okay. And then the second part of my question was, how did the Plan Commission deal with the stormwater retention?
Yeah, so the commission did express concern about the flooding in the area, and basically the same sentiments as the board, that this project must contain its own drainage and must not impact the drainage in the area. And it's also required to do that 20%, which we know is actually the 30%, over the minimum requirement for the volume of stormwater. The commission also did make mention that it will not solve the issues in the Drew area, Drew 79th area, nor are they legally required to solve those issues through this development.
Okay. Those are my questions. Anybody else?
I just want to add that as our village gets older, the retention ponds around the village are feeling a lot of strain. A lot of them are rising or flooding, and we're experiencing an increased number of floods. So I, for one, cannot really justify adding 14,000 square feet as per the calculation that Trustee Francis made of impervious surface area and put the whole area at a greater risk of flooding.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Janine, thank you. Do we have any public comment? Sorry, my apologies again.
Okay, you want my name and address and everything again? Is it Joanne Palmisano, 15 West, 230 79th Street, Burbridge, Illinois. Okay, if you look, there's little red outlines that show the new pad that will be allowed for building while they expand these garage areas. You'll see that they're so close. Can you get a lawnmower between those houses?
Wait, let's see if we can get the picture's worth
Can
a
you say that
1,000
again?
words.
There's red outlines that show now what the building pad could be. Yeah, it's very hard to see.
It was the 2018 versus 2022.
See, you're seeing the 2018. But if you look close, you can
Wait,
see the...
let's, I'm sorry, ma'am. Let's just make sure we're on the right page.
Yeah.
And then, please, go ahead with your questions.
So Janine, this is the new one, because there's red dotting on it.
There was a comparison, I think, that she is referring to.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it. Thank you.
Okay, so back to where there's red squares.
Wait, let's get the
Around.
red squares. Your IT skills,
There.
yeah. Your IT,
Okay, there you go. Now, you can see how close those houses are. I call it a cluster of houses. That cluster is on 2.5 to 3 acres of land with a road in the middle. Around this property, there are acres of open space, houses that you can mow between, and this has now been shifted to the north and to the west from the original plan. It's got a nice buffer on the south side, and they even admit that Drew doesn't want to be visible to this property, so they put in a curved road. What about the people on the west side? This is right smack in their face. There is no protection from the west side, where there's 5 acres of beautiful country home. My one neighbor, I don't want to lose him. He's got like a park back there. But we have no protection. They're going to take out all of the shrubbery, all of the wild plants, blackberry bushes. But all of that will be gone, and we will be exposed. Now, I'm not directly, this is not in my backyard. I'm over a ways, but I will still see this from the back of my yard and in the winter. But is this appropriate? That brings me to the question of how this got started in the first place.
okay, let's answer one question at a time. Can this be, I think her point is that on the west side, it is open, and there is site problems, on the west side, would that change? If this plan is not approved and it went back to the 18 plan, is that still this, would still be open on the west side, right?
Could you show the landscape plan, please?
It takes a while for trees to grow.
Well, I know, but I mean, I think it's already been approved vis-à-vis your question as to what can be seen from the west.
Correct.
So either way, the 2018 or this one is I think, the same.
That was a pretty picture with showing all the greenery over there.
Sorry, it's just taking a minute to load.
That's all right, that's all right.
It should be 1.6, is that 1.8? This, stand up.
And Janine, so we're talking about the west side. And,
These are the shrubs and the trees that are being planted for the west side here.
right, and what's on the exact opposite side? Is that, it's all open land?
I believe there's some trees down in this area,
Mm-hmm.
but I think this is more open up here.
Right.
towards the-
Okay, and would that essentially be the same plan if, for the 2018 plan?
It is, but again, that would have to come back to the board for,
Okay, so either plan would have the same landscaping on the west side?
potentially.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but my major point is that I attended the meeting on Monday. And while he said he had request for three-car garage, you need to be aware that it was one of the commissioners that contacted him requesting the three-car garage. That's very disturbing to
So
find.
what you're saying is that
He plans to purchase one of those units, and it's in the recording. He plans to purchase one, and he wants the three-car garage,
Which commissioner was that?
the one that sent the recommendation to this board.
Thank you.
I found that just makes me wonder how
Okay,
this
so-
whole construction started.
Let me
Was that,
let me back up on that,
Okay.
please. Okay, because I'm hearing this for the first
Okay.
time. All right, I want to be sure we have our facts straight.
okay,
So you're saying that one of the plan commissioners that voted on this
correct?
intended to buy one of the units, and between the 2018 plan and the plan that's in front of us tonight, that plan commissioner contacted the developer and asked for the third garage.
Correct.
Is that true? Okay, all right.
Okay, so I think we need to go back to square one and find out, did the planning commissioner or the board, which unanimously agreed after hearing that, did they have any influence on bringing a cluster unit into a open space acreage area? I think it's something that you're gonna have to
Well-
think about.
You mean, wait, so the plan commissioner that you're talking about wanted a third garage, but since, again, I wasn't here in 18, but this started all the way back, and the 18 plan has kind of already been, hasn't been formally approved, but it's been here and now it's been sent back. So there was already going to be a development there before this.
The planning commission agreed to this development, but was there any collusion with the plans in the beginning? How did we get a cluster that is surrounded by acreage?
Okay.
How did the planning commission come to approve this?
I can answer
I have
some
no-
of that. I mean, I was the,
I only bring this up because it was made aware that that's how the planning commission works. You call up the developer and say, I want to buy one of these units, but I want you to put up a three-car garage.
Let's see what Evan says.
so I don't,
I'm listening.
Can I clarify one thing before I answer the other questions? There's two things I'm trying to get a handle on here. So the first is, was that statement made last Monday or 4 years ago?
Speak in the microphone, please.
Was that statement made 4 years ago or Monday?
Monday is when I found out about that, at that meeting.
Okay. So to the other question of how did we end up with a cluster plan? In 2018, this petitioner submitted 2 plans. The first was a straight zoning plan that I think was R3. I'm almost positive it was R3. But in basic terms, that R3 plan had a straight cul-de-sac, almost like a bowling alley, which had houses on either side. And objectively, the houses on that plan were a little bit further apart, but they were closer to the home on the south, I believe. Yeah, if I have my orientation, yeah, to the south. They also presented a plan that was approved, very similar to this plan, where it had more of a curving road. And they said, we can do the by right plan, 8 lots with standard lot lines, or we would like to do the PUD plan, which is generally in front of you tonight. And the Plan Commission recommended and the board later approved, generally speaking, the plan you're looking at tonight with more of a curved road with a different kind of arrangement regarding lot lines. That's what I would call the final vote that was taken at the Plan Commission level. The Plan Commission determined because they could get more stormwater capacity and in their mind a more aesthetically pleasing development, they chose to have the same number of lots in this arrangement. That's my recollection of the 2018 approval process. I don't want to make any comment about what was said, though, between a plan commissioner and the developer, because I'm not privy to those, and I'm not trying to answer that question personally. I'm only trying to address the one about how we got this type of a development in front of us, which is approved in 2018.
Well, it begs the question that the presentation was made for the third garage based on market analysis. And you're telling me that one of the plan commissioners inquired specifically about a third garage. So what's the cart, what's the horse?
Yeah.
Well, did you do a market analysis and it said a third garage is what the market is demanding, and then a plan commissioner asked about having a third garage in a house he was interested in? Or did somebody bring up the third garage, you looked at it, and then it became a market analysis? You have to come up and identify yourself, please.
Yes, Anthony Perino, Jarper Properties. We spoke to a number of brokers trying to move the project forward, and they thought if we were able to offer 3-car garages on some of the lots, that would be a better marketing tool for us. And then Commissioner Stratus approached me and asked the same question, and that's how this came to be.
And asked the same what specific question?
Could we put a 3-car garage on there if he were interested in buying?
And that question came to you after you had a market analysis, or you inquired of brokers?
What's market analysis? Talking to brokers, is that market analysis? Right. Yes. Okay. And yes, after.
That's one component.
After, yes, he came in after and spoke about it.
So you're telling me the market analysis, speaking with the brokers, came first, and then Mr. Stratus indicated he might be interested in buying one of the 3 garage homes?
Correct.
Okay.
But there weren't 3-car garage homes at that time.
No.
So how could he ask about something that wasn't there yet? I don't know.
I'm hearing this for the first time.
If he were interested and we're interested in buying, would we be able to provide a 3-car garage?
I see. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I think if you were back and listened to the meeting, the commissioner was saying, I believe I started this.
Could you speak into the
asking-
microphone?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Very good.
I believe-
I'm sorry, you should always speak into the microphone.
Okay, if you go back and listen to the meeting, the commissioner made the comment, and I don't have his exact words, but he did say, I believe I started this because I requested a 3-car. So I believe he's thinking that he started this, and then there may have been,
He did say that at the meeting, yes.
Okay. Do you have any other points or questions?
yeah, I want to make sure that the west is protected, and if you're going to do the cluster, I want to make sure it gets through the engineering. And I have to say, our last engineer was not competent in the development to my west. There were a lot of problems.
That's, you're not talking about this, you're talking about another development at
The one to
another
my
time.
west,
Okay.
in the way that was developed. So I'm not real confident in the engineering issues.
Are you objecting to the 3rd garage, or you're saying
No,
you
no,
just
I'm
want to
talking
be?
about the water
No,
problems
okay.
of the
I want to understand your position on this development. Your concern is the west side exposure,
exposure.
okay?
And the fact that your building pads are now practically touching,
Okay,
depending
and
on.
I'll clean that up, but are you okay with the 3rd garage?
Well, it depends on, I don't see that as a attractive personally.
Eyes of the
That's my
beholder,
personal
right.
opinion. As far as whether he can put 3rd garages on, as long as it doesn't affect the water.
Would you
and
please sit
drainage,
down
'cause
and
to me,
don't
you've
do
come-
that again?
Yeah, thank you. As it appears that this whole 2.5 acres is going to be covered, which I think is going to now require far more runoff
Okay.
area.
So I'm concluding that you do not object. You might not want a 3rd garage from the way it looks, but you're not objecting to that. Your concern that I want to address is the west side exposure and the gaps or the distances between the homes.
And the fact that a commissioner is
Right.
guiding, that is a huge problem to me. That shouldn't be. And he should have recused himself, that would have been fine. But then everybody unanimously, nobody flinched.
Okay.
That's how you do that?
Let me ask a couple questions. So what about the space between the buildings that she's bringing up? Like, what is the space between, are they touching or?
I'm back, Nick Patera again.
Thank you.
Yes, the diagram that was up before shows 2 different line types. These are the combined 3-car and 2-car garages on this version. This is the landscape plan. You can look, to answer your question quickly, 20 feet or better is the distance between garages. It is deceptive to look at the building envelope, which is the dashed line on the outside, and you could say there's not room for.
I'm good, 20 feet or more.
Okay.
Between
Janine, do you-
garages.
Between the
Not
garages.
between buildings, between garages, right?
Okay.
Is that what you said?
I said there's 20 feet between buildings. In other words, structure to
At first you
structure.
said garages, but I took it as buildings, I'm sorry. So are any of the buildings touching each other?
No.
Okay, what is the least amount of distance between any structures?
I'm going to have to say 20 feet. We measured just a moment ago. I don't know if I measured the tightest one, but it's in that range, just to be as straight up as I can at this
Right,
time.
so at this point, your best
More than
knowledge of this project would be the narrowest part between 2 buildings is about 20 feet.
Thank you. Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question?
I just have a couple comments.
I know. I think we all do. Go ahead.
May I, just a couple questions came up, and if it helps the trustees, there will be no occupied call it living space above the garages in these plans. We've looked at the plans since. I couldn't answer your question before. Thank you. Existing trees will remain on the south side of the property. That's part of the reason for that gooseneck-shaped road, and that the landscape plantings will also occur as street tree plantings between homes to help moderate the effect of when you drive in. It's not going to be garage doorscape, but it does have a nice landscape appearance.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Joe, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Nothing,
All right,
nothing's changed. Thank you.
And then I did ask for public comment. We did get one. Thank you. Anybody else in the public have any comments or questions? All right, trustee Francis?
Yes. So if you could zoom in on the west boundary of this subdivision on the landscaping plan. Looking at the species of the trees here, the plantings, and it appears about half of them are deciduous trees, meaning that their leaves fall off in the fall. So that's not going to provide adequate screening. I would ask whether it's a 2-car garage or a 3-car garage plan that is approved, that these be all conifers, pines, spruces, et cetera, that provide year-round screening for the property to the west.
Is year-round landscaping sufficient if it were to go to a vote? Year-round live landscaping?
If we don't approve this, then they have to submit a landscaping plan for final approval.
Right.
These should be all conifers. If this is approved, this plan here for the 3-car garages, they have to be conifers, either way.
Understood.
Okay?
Thank you.
20 feet between structures, that's 10 feet on a setback line. That's our bare minimum. That's the bare minimum in our village. Just want to point that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. So we have a motion and a second for discussion. And we've had our discussion. Now, just to keep, can I get a motion to approve a major change and amendment to the cottages at Drew PUD ordinance number A 834-16-18 Z 15 2022 7950 Drew Avenue, Perino, Jarper Properties LLC. Can I get a motion to approve a major change and amendment to the cottages at Drew PUD ordinance number A 834-16-18 Z 15 2022 7950 Drew Avenue, Perino, Jarper Properties LLC?
Is that what you're asking for a motion? I'm not too crazy about the project, there's a lot of questions, but the Plan Commission did recommend it to us 7-0. I mean, they recommended it. So is that what you're asking for the motion?
I'm asking for a motion. Is anyone willing to make a motion to approve what the Plan Commission essentially?
So we had a motion and a second.
For discussion.
For discussion. Yes, for discussion, so.
This is a motion to approve what the Plan Commission has recommended with the proviso that there be conifers on the west side of the property and there'd be no living space above the garages, 3rd garage.
I'll approve what the Plan Commission recommended.
You make a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Now it's open for discussion. Here is my suggestion. Rather than vote on it tonight, I think a question, Commissioner Stratus is one of the finest people I know. But a question was brought up as to which was the cart, which was the horse, and I want clarity that there was no impropriety at all, and I'm confident there was not, but since someone has raised a question and put that in question, I would like to recommend that this go back to the Plan Commission for clarity on how the 3rd garage came about and their position on the 3rd garage, both aesthetically and for living space, and in essence, ask them to look at this again, and if they're of the same opinion and mind, to send it back to us. We have waited, from what I heard tonight, at least 5 years on this program. It is a challenging project, and I would rather see it go back and go through the process as properly and cleanly and as clear as possible. So that's my position as mayor.
So you need a motion to remand it back to the Plan Commission.
So would someone amend the motion that's on the table and make a motion to remand?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? So the motion before us now is to remand it back to the Plan Commission. Yes, trustee Francis.
I'm going to give Commissioner Stratus the benefit of the doubt. What his influence had on this third garage option made no bearing on the Plan Commission's decision. But regardless of that, I can't support this in any way possible, shape, or form.
Okay. So
I felt it was a difficult site. I was not thrilled with 8 cluster homes to begin with. And this just adds more bulk, more density to shoved up all in one corner of the site. I'm not happy with it, and I can't support it.
okay.
Either way.
So we are a consensus board often. I often ask for the consensus of the board, and without voting tonight, will any of the other trustees tell me what they feel about this project?
I believe it's a challenging site as well, but I agree with sending it back to the Plan Commission to make sure that there's clarity and that the vote was not influenced, that they feel that this is a good plan for the Village of Burridge.
I'll second it.
Joe, any comments?
I'm going to follow the great one, trustee Francis, stating the fact that I will not support this whatsoever. It's 5 years, it's long enough. I do not want to have any more impact on that land, following trustee Matal's also with the water. My vote would be no anyway, so thank you very much for asking.
Okay. So here's how I see the consensus on the board is this is going to be a hard sell to begin with. That stated, I'd still like to still go back to the Plan Commission and let it go through its process again, just to make things very clear as to the procedure. So there is a motion to remand this back to the Plan Commission. It has been seconded. We've had some discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Yes, opposed.
So it's 3-2, that's to remand it back. That passes. Thank you.
It's still going to have to come back to the board. So
Okay.
you're going to get a second crack at this.
Okay.
I just don't want to waste the Plan Commission's time.
I get it, but I still want it to be very clear. I don't want what was stated here to remain in this room without there being clarity and another opportunity from the Plan Commission. I have the highest respect for Mike Stratus. I've known him forever. I too don't believe that it had anything to do with the process, but if a citizen raises it, a citizen that's been here a long time, then I think we have to respect that. And since we have the time, let's make sure things are clear, okay? So that takes care of our agenda for tonight. That takes us down to item 9, public comment. Is there any public comment? All right, that takes us to 10, reports and communication from village officials. Anita?
All right. Well, we had a beautiful Armed Forces Day, and once again, the sun gods were smiling upon us, and it was so nice to see a good representation of our village at the event. There were a lot of seniors, there were lots of kids, there was popcorn, there was a lot of candy being donated by the dentist, but that's okay. But it was a very nice event, and Captain Scott Smith was the chief guest. He spoke very well, and so did our mayor and many other speakers. Now we have the concert series, which is going to start on June 2nd. The first concert will be Fortunate Sons, once again, every Thursday at 7 p.m. We look forward to good weather and a lot of residents attending these events.
Thank you. I will echo that. I thought Armed Forces Day was very well done. Hannah
Yes,
isn't
I wanted to
here.
thank Hannah too.
Hannah did a lot of the
Yes.
work. The Veterans Committee did a lot of the work. Captain Scott Smith of the Navy gave a great speech. We've been fortunate each year. Hats off to the Veterans Committee for getting great military speakers. One of the great things about Armed Forces Day for the Village of Burr Ridge is, number one, we're about the only village that actually holds ceremonies about it. And I think there should be more. This Armed Forces Day is to celebrate, pay tribute to our current men and women in the military. Whereas Memorial Day, of course, is to honor the dead, and Veterans Day is to honor veterans. Armed Forces Day is about the present. And so I'm so glad that Burr Ridge does it. I hope it continues to grow. I think we need to give a little bit more consideration to the Veterans Committee so it has the proper resources and doesn't stress the staff too badly for this, because I would hope that it would continue to grow and therefore would take more time to organize. It's a good event. I just feel it's something that the Village of Burr Ridge will be proud of doing over the years going forward. And I can only echo that it was, the sun came out for a little while, but it got pretty cold as the day, and hopefully next year it'll be May 20th, 2023. So I know that date, that's my anniversary, so I'll remember. Yes?
I just wanted to make the comment that last year and this year, our speakers were two very distinguished military personnel.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Reports, communications, Joe?
No, sir.
Okay, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting of the board till June 13, 2022 at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.